Hello, Mayor Buttigieg. I am so excited to sit down and talk with you today. How's your day going?
Great. It's been a great day of events, and really glad to be with you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. You're the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and in 2012, South Bend joined a small number of Indiana cities with an anti-discrimination law that protects LGBTQ people, including trans people,
Okay.
but in employment, housing, I think public accommodations.
Yes.
And you were a real leader on that. You spoke up for it, and you eventually signed it. What's the journey you've had around transgender issues that made you support a bill that protected trans people?
Well, one of the things that I considered important during that struggle, and it was, I think, the third time that there had been an attempt in South Bend to get a non-discrimination ordinance on the books. As a new mayor, and though I hadn't been ready to talk about this publicly, also as a gay man, I saw how all of us depend on one another's support. And so including gender identity and not just sexual orientation was a very important part of making sure that we said what we meant when we said everyone is protected.
Oh, that's great. Now, you mentioned the Equality Act. Now, you're not running for Congress, so you're not
Yeah.
going to get to vote for the Equality
That's right.
Act. But the president can have a role in getting the Equality Act to their desk and to get it signed. So what kind of leadership role do you think you could take with the Equality Act to get it going?
Well, I think moral leadership from the president is very important on issues like this. So not only the fact that I'll sign it when it hits my desk, but that I'll support those who are speaking out for equality is just such an important part of what the presidency is for. And at a time when many people around the country are still learning about transgender rights and trans equality, making sure that the president is a voice standing with trans Americans really helps make sure not just the law, but the culture, the society of our country is more accepting and more supportive.
Well, thank you. When you were in the Navy, you were serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So in theory, you weren't welcome there. Since that time, President Trump has tweeted a trans military ban and implemented it. How did you feel about that as it was happening, or how do you feel about it now, and what are you going to do about it?
Seeing what the president has done with the trans military ban is infuriating. And not just as somebody who served under both sides of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, but just as an American who knows that the people that I served with would put their lives on the line for the country. And to have their careers cut short, threatened by tweet and by policy, by a president who avoided serving in the military when it was his turn is, I think, the ultimate insult to people who offered to give everything to this country. So this is a policy that will be reversed as soon as I am president.
Okay. When you came out as a gay man, you were the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and your governor at the time was Mike Pence. One thing that you and Mike Pence have in common is you both profess to be people of faith. Mike Pence Vice President Pence, has used his faith at times to justify discrimination against LGBTQ people. What would you say to people of faith, to Christians who use their faith that way?
Well, this was a fight in Indiana when then Governor Pence tried to impose this so-called Religious Freedom Restoration Act, whose real intent was to support discrimination. And it was effectively a license to discriminate for anybody who remembered to use religion as an excuse for their decision to discriminate. I believe that every freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, every freedom in our country is honored, and also is honored to the point that it cannot cause harm. In other words, just as the right to free speech doesn't mean you can yell fire in a crowded theater, the freedom to religious expression, which is very important to me personally, does not mean that you can harm people in the name of religion and say that's okay. And my message to fellow people of faith on this issue is to remember that when you have policies that try to invoke religion as a way to harm people or exclude people, that isn't just an insult to the separation of church and state. It's an insult to religion. Every faith tradition I know of, certainly the Christian tradition I belong to, speaks so much about needing to support those who are sometimes marginalized, those who are most vulnerable, those who are ostracized. I mean, the entire New Testament is full of stories that teach us about the importance of lifting one another up. And what you see is, in my view, a very narrow, dim, and even backwards idea of what religion is about when people would use it as a pretext to exclude trans Americans or any Americans.
Why should trans people vote for you?
I believe that politics is about two things. It's about our values: freedom, justice, equality, democracy, security. And it's about everyday life. It's about making sure that the decisions that are made in big white buildings in Washington are always done with a view to how they affect us in our everyday lives. And I think the trans experience, from restrictions on the most basic things that people take for granted to get through your day, like being able to use a bathroom, to having equal rights in employment and housing, that this is a concern in the everyday. And the kind of politics I want to practice is one that sees to it that the decisions made in halls of power make everyday life better for all Americans, and that certainly includes trans Americans in my worldview and in my presidency.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're very thankful, and really good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks.